Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Today our lecture is about dew point. Today our lecture is about the dew point and different types of condensation like frost, mist, smoke and fog, etc. So first of all we discuss what is the dew point. The temperature at which the rate of condensation and the rate of evaporation is equal and the vapor of water condenses into liquid water in a sample of air is called the dew point. We know that the condensation and evaporation are irreversible processes. So there are different conditions, and sometimes the rate of condensation is greater than the rate of evaporation. Sometimes the rate of condensation is lower than the rate of evaporation, and sometimes the rate of condensation become equal to the rate of evaporation. So in order to determine the dew point, we have to look at the rate of evaporation and the rate of condensation. So if the rate of evaporation and the rate of condensation is equal and the water condenses into liquid in a sample of air, then this is called the dew point. Now, based on definition, the dew point is not a specific temperature, but it can vary and can be different. It can change and depend on the atmospheric variable and atmospheric conditions and their presence. Droplet can only be formed when the condensation takes place. When the temperature is very low, then the dew take the form of ice, which is called frost. So frost is when the temperature is very low and below 0 degrees centigrade. When the temperature is very low and below 0 degrees centigrade, the dew take the form of ice, which is called frost. Here also the rate of condensation is equal to the rate of evaporation, but the temperature is below 0 degrees centigrade or freezing point. The dew point of the frost is always less than 0 centigrade or 0 centigrade. If the temperature is above 0, dew drops will be formed, which is liquid. On other hand, at low temperature, the frost will be formed. Both dew and frost are formed by condensation. What is the basic difference between the dew and the frost? So usually the temperature required of dew is not specific. It can take place at any temperature, and the dew is actually in the form of liquid state, while the frost, on the other hand, the temperature should be below the freezing point, and the frost is usually ice exists in the solid state on the surfaces. In the images you can see the difference between the dew and the frost. On a leaf, the droplets are forms which some are bigger in size and some are smaller in size. On the other hand, the second image contains the leaves on which the frost are formed. So usually when the temperature is 0 or below 0, ice will be formed because of water freeze at 0 degrees centigrade, and this is called the freezing point of water. When water freezes, which water? The condensed water. When the condensed water freezes, which are formed on different solid surfaces, then this is known as frost. Frost is also condenses water, but in frozen form. It frozen just after it's converted into liquid. It is in frozen form. Because of the low temperature, it's particularly occur in winter season. The frost can be seen as the ice crystal deposited on the cold surfaces. If the formation of a frost is same as dew point, what is the difference? So the difference is the temperature of the dew point. The temperature or the dew point required for the frost is below 0 centigrade or below the freezing point. The other form of condensation are mist and fog. Based on this definition, you can easily understand. The mist is very fine microscopic water condensed droplets. The mist is very small in size and fine and microscopic water condensed droplets. Due to their small size, these droplets are in suspended form in the air. When water evaporated from different surfaces and the temperature is low, vapor molecules of water loses energy and condense in smaller particles in the air, which are called mist. Mist occur at low level of atmosphere. It reduces the visibility in the area at relatively longer distance. Visibility reduced to 1 kilometer. हमारे साथ जो मिस्ट के पार्टिकल होते हैं ये स्मॉल होते हैं, फाइन होते हैं और माइक्रोस्कोपिक होते हैं, जो ज़्यादातर जो है लो लेवल ऑफ एटमॉस्फेयर पर पाए जाते हैं और ये उन्हीं इवापोरेटेड वाटर से जो है बनती है जो सरफेसेस से इवापोरेट होकर लो लेवल ऑफ एटमॉस्फेयर पर चले जाते हैं। ये चंद इलाकों में विजिबिलिटी को भी रिड्यूस करता है, लेकिन ज़्यादा हद तक ये विजिबिलिटी को रिड्यूस नहीं करता, यानी 1 किलोमीटर तक हम देख सकते हैं। Take the example of this picture in which you can see a forest. There is a mist being formed between the trees, but you can see still the forest and the ways. The visibility is obscured to small amount. Over here, a rural face is shown where you can observe it in a village sometime during dawn time. These occur usually at sunrising time or at the time of dawn. The small droplet can be seen, which reduce the visibility in the area. But the visibility is not obscured to a large extent. Fog. What a small droplets suspended in a sample of air which have relatively larger size than the mist or called fog. So the fog particles are larger than the mist particles. हमारे साथ फोग में जो पार्टिकल्स होते हैं उनका साइज उन मॉलिक्यूल्स या उन ड्रॉपलेट से ज्यादा होता है जो मिस्ट में पाए जाते हैं, यानी मिस्ट में छोटे छोटे पार्टिकल्स, छोटे छोटे ड्रॉपलेट्स होते हैं और फोग में बड़े होते हैं। It forms a thick shield or a thick veil and reduce the visibility to greater extent, usually below 1 kilometer. The greater reduction in the visibility is due to the greater size of the droplets. हमारे साथ फॉग के पार्टिकल्स बड़े होते हैं तो इसकी वजह से ये विजिबिलिटी को भी ज़्यादा रिड्यूस करते हैं और बंदा 5 से 10 किलोमीटर में सही तौर पर देख नहीं सकता. तो fog can form the fog can take place the form of a hazard. You can see in this picture where the visibility is reduced to a greater extent and there is a tree which cannot be seen fully, and one can see that yellow line which separates the two sides of the road, and sometimes due to greater visibility the accident can happen on a motorway, so the people should avoid the fast driving at motorway during such reduced visibility or poor visibility. Now we will discuss the point that what is the difference between the cloud and fog. There is no clear physical difference between the cloud and fog, but the clouds are usually found high in the atmosphere while the fog is found nearer to the ground. The fog can take place the form of hazards which can cause damages to us and cause accident at the roadsides and motorways. Now we will discuss about the difference between the mist and fog. So the mist particles or mist droplets are very small, and the droplets in the fog have a large size. So the first difference is the size of the droplets. The mist have the smaller size of the droplets and the fog have a larger size of the droplets. The mist can reduce the visibility in the area to lower or lesser extent, while the fog reduces the visibility in the area to a greater extent. One can see about 1 kilometer clearly when the mist is there, but when the fog is there, one can see about 5 to 10 meters clearly. The mist is not involved to a greater extent an accident, so it is not the cause of accident in the motorways. On the other hand, the fog reduces the visibility which causes the road accidents.